Number 1. Zooming. So the first tip is zooming in and out. Getting a good grip of this tool can really help speed things up. The shortcut key for the zoom tool is Z. Press the Z key on the keyboard and you will notice the mouse change to a magnifying glass with a plus on it. This will allow us to click and zoom in like so. To zoom out, simply press and hold Alt on the keyboard and notice the plus change to a minus. Then simply click again a few times to zoom out. With the zoom tool active, you can click and drag to select an area to zoom into, so be sure to practice these zoom techniques. Another handy shortcut is Command 0. This will snap the current canvas dock to your workspace area. So let's say we are zoomed in quite a lot on the canvas area. Pressing Command 0 will zoom out to show the document fully on the page, like so. Another handy zoom shortcut is Command 1. This will snap the current canvas dock to 100%. So let's say we zoomed in quite a lot on the canvas area. Pressing Command 1 will zoom out to show the document artboard at 100%. Tip number 2, maneuvering. Another cool tip is to use the spacebar. No matter what tool you have active, if you press and hold the spacebar, you will notice the cursor change to a little hand symbol. With the spacebar held down, I am going to click and drag around the canvas, maneuvering around my area like so. I can zoom out and press the spacebar to move around, zoom back in, hold the spacebar to move around again like so. This is a really useful tip to maneuver around your artwork. Tip number 3, duplicating your vector objects. Let's say you have a vector object on your canvas area, like this square here. If I want to quickly duplicate this object, I can simply press and hold Alt on the keyboard, click and drag the object across like so, and upon release, a clone of that object will be made. I can do this several times until I have many squares on my canvas area. Tip number 4, select multiple objects. With the selection tool active, I can drag an area over all the objects like so, and upon release, I will have all objects selected. This will enable me to move them around as one, like so, as a group. Though, if for any reason I want to select a couple, if I click off to deselect them, by holding Shift on the keyboard, I can simply select multiple objects one at a time. If, for example, you want to deselect one of the objects, then with the Shift still held down, you can simply click again on an object and this will deselect that object. So, by holding Shift, you can select multiple objects and deselect objects. Tip number 5, aligning. If I want to align these objects, I can do so quite simply. With the selection tool active, I'm going to click and drag over all the squares to select them. With them all selected, I'm going to come to the top control panel across the top of my interface, and you should notice some alignment buttons here. If you don't see these buttons for whatever reason, you can come to Window and open your Align panel. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Horizontal Alignment Center, and upon click you can see them all aligned to the center like so. Now, as you can see, they are oddly spaced out. If I want to align them with equal space in between, I can simply click on the Vertical Distribute Center button, and now they are perfectly spaced out. Excellent! So keep in mind, you can also align in other ways using the other alignment icons. Tip number 6, rulers and guides. To demonstrate this, I'm going to come over to the next artboard. Now, this is a function that can allow you to create margins in a document and accurately place and align your objects in relation to each other on your canvas area. A useful shortcut for this is Command R. And as you can see, if you look around the edge of my document area, as I press Command R repeatedly, you can see the rulers become visible and hide again. Okay, so I'm going to press this until I can see my rulers. Now I'm going to move my mouse over the vertical ruler and click and drag out and over to the right like so. And as you do this, notice a grey line appear. This is your new guide you're about to drop onto the canvas area. So I'm going to drag this over to the right and place it next to my circle like so. And once I'm happy, I'm simply going to release and my guide will be placed. Now, if for some reason you do not see your guide, you can press Command:. This is the shortcut to hide and reveal guides. Or you can simply come up to View, come down to Guides, and then come across to Show Guides. Okay, so what if I want to edit these current guides? For example, I want to move this guide to the other side of the circle. Well, this is easy. All you have to do is select the guide with the selection tool, though you must first make sure that you can edit guides. If we come back to View and scroll down to Guides, we have an option here called Lock Guides. To edit guides, we need to make sure this is unchecked, and then we can simply click a guide on the canvas area and click and drag it around like so. Tip number 7, Smart Guides. Another thing to keep in mind is Smart Guides. Again, if we come to View and come down, we can see Smart Guides. This is pretty useful, so you will want this checked. With Smart Guides activated, Illustrator will give you useful prompts. For example, if I select the current guide and drag in slightly to the middle of my circle here, you will see it snap to the center of the circle. If I click and drag again, but this time to the outside of the circle, notice how it snaps to the outside of the circle. Smart Guides also helps when positioning objects in relation to each other. For example, if I take a square that I created earlier and attempt to move it around another object, you will see the green Smart Guide help me align to the top, middle, bottom of a neighboring object. So this can be pretty useful. So now I'm going to drag a few more guides into the canvas area around my circle. And now I have very quickly and easily marked out the middle horizontal and middle vertical point of my circle. Now remember, we are still using Smart Guides, so what I can do now is select the ellipse tool. If I move my mouse pointer to the top left of my guides, you will notice the mouse pointer snap to the corner. If I click and drag to draw an ellipse, by holding Shift, this will scale this nicely, and I can create a circle half the size of my outer circle. Now, if I select this new circle, I can easily click and drag this into the middle, and notice how it snaps to the middle like so. Perfect! Tip number 8, Scale, Stroke and Effects. Another thing to keep in mind when new to Illustrator is the Scale, Stroke and Effects feature. For example, I'm going to select my two circles here, and I'm going to push up the stroke on them both, like so. Then I'm going to select the Scale tool from the menu on the left, and I'm going to make my circle smaller. Now notice that the stroke size is the same even when the circles are smaller. This time, let's make the circles larger, and we can see that the stroke size is still the same. If you're new to Illustrator, chances are that this will happen when you attempt to scale objects up and down. But if you want to scale, stroke and effects, you can do this simply by coming to the top menu and finding the Preferences option. On a Mac, we come to Illustrator and click on Preferences. I'm going to click on General, and up will pop a menu. If you look closely, about halfway down on the right hand side, you should see a checkbox with the title Scale, Strokes and Effects. If we make sure this is checked and click OK, when we select and scale down our objects, so too will the effects applied to the vector, such as the stroke. Excellent! Tip number 9, Full Screen and Toggle Panels. This is a really simple tip, but kind of useful if you want to remove all the interface panels and take a look at your artwork nice and clear on the screen. First, if you press Tab on the keyboard, this is going to remove all the panels in the interface, and if I press Tab again, this will bring them back. If I press F on the keyboard once, this will remove the panels from view, and if I press F again, this will go into full screen mode. Simple yet useful. Tip number 10, Grids. For the last tip, I'm going to show you grids. The shortcut to show your grids is Command apostrophe, or you could simply come to View and Show Grids. If you are creating an intricate piece of artwork and need to use a grid, you will find this useful. If you wish to customize your grid, you can come to Preferences, scroll down and select Guides and Grid. And in the pop-up menu, you can change the grid properties, such as the color, style, grid line, quantity and subdivision. As you can see here, I have mine set for a grid line every 40 mm with a subdivision of 5. Below this, you can also specify if you want your grids always set in the background, and if you want Illustrator to show a pixel grid above 600% zoom. With your grid open, you also have the ability to snap to grid. If I come to View and scroll down to Snap to Grid, then make sure this is checked, I'm going to come over to one of the squares I created earlier and zoom in a little, and if I move this around, you can see the object snapping to the grid like so. And if I had enough of my grid, or simply want to continue to create artwork without the grid, again I can press Command' to turn that off. So that's a few handy tips in Adobe Illustrator to help you with your workflow. In the next video, we are going to move into the essential practice section of this course. In this video, we are going to be focusing on shape vectors. We are going to be using the shape tool to create a range of vector shapes. See you in the next video.